We got a great group of clerks here. I'm so happy you guys are here. This is really a lot about what all the work that we've been doing over the last 5 years, and this is kind of an interesting transition on how we're going to present things to the public. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you know, as you all know, back in 2021, it was kind of a crazy year after the 2020 election, and part of that was, a lot of controversy about the 2020 election. Warranted or not, it was the public was looking really for a little bit more information, looking for a little bit more accountability, and I believe for us to be a little bit more transparent. And that's kind of, as the clerk, these were the things that I thought we really wanted to focus on: was transparency, integrity of our elections, and security. We wanted to be able to prove whatever somebody questioned something. I believe it was important that we were able to give them answers. And there were so many things when I first came in office, we didn't have answers. People would ask me a question, I didn't know, because we didn't have, for instance, we didn't collect the modem sticks or the tabulator sticks. And that was kind of a new thing when we started doing that. I know some were saying, wait a minute, what are we doing here? But that's what needed to be done in order for us to have accountability all the way through. And I did a little bit of an exercise here of talking about thinking about all the things that we did in Macomb County to make our elections more secure. Mandatory collection of USB sticks. So that was something we started in 2021, and it was you were all partners in that. You were all a big part of getting this to work and getting this to happen. But then came the next step, and this was the part that brought us all a little consternation, and it was removing the modems from the tabulators. A lot of people were unhappy in the public, knowing that the modems were turned on, and we were all told honestly that these modems were turned on at the end of the day. I was told that they were turned on at the end of the day, and the truth is, they were turned on all day long. And they did only send a transmission at the end of the day, but they were on all day, just like your cell phone might be, except it's much more encrypted and secured. So removing the tabulators was the first step, and it really, I think, brought a lot of concern because our reports were coming in a little bit later. But that led us to the forensic audit of our election server, our election software, tabulator sticks that we were able to collect and finally do this. And doing that was important because we were able to find a lot of things out. And in that process, I'm going to go through the rest of these items that we ended up doing all the way through letter K. And so after we did that, we also learned that these tabulators right here have a pretty cool function, right? We can put a ballot, when you put a ballot in, it scans the ballot. But it was never retaining that image. We changed that, and since 2021, when you put a ballot in, that ballot image is retained now. And it shows also how that ballot actually got scored. I think that's important. I think that's important for election transparency. We don't know whose ballot they were, right? We don't know that you were the third voter in, and we can tell in the database that you were, which one's yours. It's not. It's randomized. So that was a big change. Did we do much with it? No. But if you wanted to FOIA all those, we have them. So saving the ballot images was important, but then there was the hash training that all you got involved with, hash validation. So that stick that leaves our office gets hash validated, and then at the end, the election's over. We know if anybody infiltrated, either domestically or foreign, somebody might have changed the tabulator settings, anybody might have done anything within that, changing the programming, we would know based on the hash validations. And you were all trained to do that. And this is really, I think, something statewide. Honestly, the tabulator companies need to make it a little bit easier because, as you know, it's pretty tedious to do these things. One of the things that came up also during the year was the need for election workers. And you all remember when we first brought up the idea, it was a Zoom call. Our election director, Michael Grix, was right in front of the Zoom camera, and I says, you know what, we should be training election workers and recruiting them across the county. You all saw his face drop. He wasn't, he goes, wait a minute, we're a staff of 4. How are we going to do this? Well, we did. And we had some help from the rest of the staff here, and we recruited and trained over 700 people to add to what you're already doing. So it was in addition to. And I know some of the clerks, I know one clerk sitting in the room here, I think asked for 35 people the day before an election, right? And that was a big ask, but we had them because we had over 700 people trained. And that was good. It's kind of like a college education for election workers. We had labs, we had them actually, so that when they came into work for you, it wasn't the first time they had seen that. So that was important, particularly when they're told the day before. Something else, through the forensic audit, we have a server room here, and in the past, anybody that had a key could just go up and get into the server room. We changed the protocols on that, so it's a dual entry. So say Mike wants to go in the server room, he can't just do that himself. He has to ask somebody else from outside this building, either myself, one of my deputies, to come in, and the 2 of them let him in to work that server room. A little bit more accountability, not that there was ever an issue, but if anyone questioned it, we would be able to say that that was other people were involved. In 2024, we started the first ever in Macomb County watermarks on our ballots. Our ballots, I look at them like currency, man. They're special. They're very sacred, if you ask me. All of our paper now is watermarked, and that gives you that little bit more of an accountability and security of knowing that your ballots are being only watermarked ballots. Somebody, you've heard people talk about somebody went to a Xerox machine and made copies. You need to have watermarked ballots. And so that was, I think, a big milestone. Talking to people out in the public, that was a huge deal for people after we did it. The backups, the tabulator sticks, you know, we had a couple clerks last time, their tabulator sticks were corrupted, and we had to go back and redo their ballots on election day. But wait a minute, let's make sure we have a second set behind there. The machines are capable of it, and that way we don't have to go through that process again. After the 2024 election, we had a little time here. What do we have, 6 elections, I think, in 2024? Some of you did. Adam, did you have, how many, who had 6?
You had 5.
You had 5? I think there were 6. Somebody had Warren had a 6th election, which means we had 6, right? So it was tough to do some of the things I'm talking about, but in 2024, I asked Mike and the team here, I said, do me a favor, how many people do we have over the age of 100 in Macomb County? 600, approximately 600 people. Now, we're living longer, we're 850,000 people, I get it. But Mike, can you do me a favor? Can you count every single ballot, or not count, look at everyone, not every ballot, I'm sorry, every person. Are they still with us? And we had just about 300 that were no longer with us, and I think some of you got those people to remove from the QVF. So that was, you know, that's what people are looking for, right? That's what the public is looking for, is that kind of accountability, even though it's really not our responsibility, but it kind of is. Of course, a few weeks ago, we announced that there was, through our work with the jury pool, the new software, and then over to the QVF, we looked at non-citizens that were reporting to the jury room, self-reporting out. Those people we took and applied them against the QVF, and we found a little more than 2 handfuls of people that were actually in our QVF. And that never should be the case. We've done some more investigation, and we found even more now. So this is something that I think that we're going to continue to pursue. I know we're going to continue to pursue. Our jury room every week is finding a few people that are in the jury pool self-reporting out. So that's important stuff, and that's how I think in Macomb County we're kind of leading the way in all these election reforms, and you guys are a big part of it. Now comes why we're here today. So we're down to K. L is Ballot Verifier. This is a new program. We're the first in the state to implement this. Ballot Verifier is our way of taking those images from the ballots, putting them up online, and put them up against how they're scored. So anybody from their home can take a look at our ballots. And are they all going to be perfect? I'm going to guess probably not, but we can't fix it unless we see exactly what's going on. We got a lot of citizens that want to participate. So this is kind of what it looks like. So this is right off of Severa. I'm going to introduce Adam Friedman in a minute. He's going to do a little workshop for us. He's the, I'll call him the inventor, but the CEO of Severa. He's sitting there very nicely in a sport coat. I wonder who this guy is. I should have introduced him right from the beginning. So here is New Baltimore. New Baltimore. Here's how the votes, this is an actual ballot. You can see how somebody scribbled in those dots. And you can see with their interactive cast vote record that Tom Saman, Marcella, Marsha Shinka, Jacob. And then look at this. There's 3 people that could have voted in this election over here. Only 1 vote. So we had 2 undervotes. And a library board member, nobody voted for any of these people. So you can see this section of it, and this is the interactive. This is how they make it look pretty. However, what comes out of our tabulator? This is what ES&S actually provides. And this is what they made look nice. But if you want to see what really comes out of the tabulator, here's the same thing. The undervotes, counted, see the greens, correspond with that ballot. Now, look at this section up here. This is interesting because some people might say, okay, that's great, but where is this information coming from? Was it just made up? Well, no, because this came from New Baltimore Precinct 4, a nonpartisan ballot, the tabulator CVR, the cast vote record. That's the value for that cast vote record. What machine did it come from? We know that it came from, let's just say it's that machine, the serial number, okay? And it wasn't a blank ballot. So, and this is the reporting group from Election Day. This is good stuff. So there's a lot of people that question everything that we're doing, as they should. I'm okay.
Clerk, I want a question. Do we want to give out that information, the Taylor CVR machine?
Yes.
Number, is that okay to do?
It is.
Okay.
It is. There's still confidentiality. And that's the biggest thing we wanted to maintain was confidentiality. For instance, there's some areas that you might have that are a cross-section. It might be a school district that may be just a handful of votes. Well, if it's 20 or under, we settled on 20, did we not? Mike?
Yes.
20? Monica? Yeah. So any vote total under 20 gets redacted. So you don't know how the people with a small vote total are counted.
Tony, is there any metadata associated with
No.
that image of the ballot?
It's just an image.
Okay.
We asked that question also. Is there any way that anyone could? No, it's a PDF, a 200 DPI. Is that the right terminology? 200 DPI PDF that's generated. That's all that's generated.
From a TIF.
No, it's a PDF.
No, but from a TIF, right?
Within internally, but the TIF that's in there is actually secured. Nobody can get that. You got to have the software to get it into a PDF. All right?
That's what we grabbed from electionware.
This is what we grabbed from electionware. Right. So to me, this is really a great way of being able to provide for our citizens a method of accountability, transparency, and that's what we're all about in Macomb. We've done more than that. You know, I've been going across the state talking, and clerks show up because they want to hear what we're doing here in Macomb, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna turn this over to Adam Friedman from Severa, and he's gonna do a little workshop so we can actually play through this.
That's great.
And ask questions. How do the clerks look at it? How do the clerks see this? And this is no different than what we've been doing, except now it's just we're putting it all online. You do not have to FOIA this information anymore.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead,
Yeah,
Adam.
it's really great to be here. It's great to meet you all. My name is Adam Friedman, founder and CEO of Severa. So Severa stands for Civic Veracity, Civic Truth. And our company is dedicated to ensuring that this sort of data is available, that access to public data we consider a human right. And insofar as we're protecting voter privacy and maintaining total security and integrity of this data, this is vital to do, particularly because the technology is available, has been available, and it's time that we actually use it. Because, as I think we all know, we have a crisis of trust and confidence in our politics in general in this country, and unfortunately since 2020 in elections. It's still there, it's not gone. We just saw what happened in Fulton County. And so our hope, by providing more ground truth transparency so that voters don't feel like voting is a black box, but instead a glass box where they can actually see that ground truth, will take one huge step toward bringing the citizens and government together so there's a more collaborative and continual improvement type of attitude and culture of how we do governance in the United States, which we think is sorely needed. And so Clerk Ferlini and Macomb County are on that the front lines of that movement. And you guys should be very proud for taking this step. First county in the state of Michigan to provide this technology to the public. One of 7 states, so we've launched ballot verifier across the country in Colorado, Texas, Idaho, New Mexico, Florida, California, and Michigan. We're proud to add Michigan now to this state that's starting to move on this. So let's dive in. So in Macomb County, and
this is live now.
That's right. We just put the link up on the county website, or the county staff put the link up there. So any voter can go into or anybody can go into the past election results page of the Elections Department and click on Ballot Verifier. And now this is Severa, our company has provided this application and maintained the designs that's part of the county's website. And we do this in a really secure way where all of the materials are cloud hosted but totally segregated from any kind of critical voting infrastructure. So there's absolutely no penetration, there's no involvement in the existing tabulation system in any way whatsoever, because a lot of folks ask that because it's like, oh, you're putting these ballots online, so is it a copy of the ballots? Yes, it's a copy of the images that you all have stored and maintain storage of in your air-gap secure tabulation system. So for the user, it's as simple as going on this homepage and choosing the election event that you want to see. Now, I want to point something out here. This site serves 2 purposes. It's to provide that ballot level auditability and transparency, but it's also the ultimate historical search tool. And as you go back into these election events from the past, you're actually looking at decades of past election results that we allow now users to search. And that was actually Severa's flagship product called Election Stats. We built upon that flagship search engine to provide the ballot verifier as a new application and module.
So let me just interrupt real quick, Adam. This historical data is going all the way back, but ballot verifier has just only started for November 2025. We're going to go back to November 2024, but we wanted to roll this out with a little bit easier election that we can get started. We're going to eventually go back to November 2024, and then of course keep moving forward. But what Adam's showing you now is a new historical website that we have, which does not have all ballot verifier.
That's right. So if I peel back the November 2025 election, you're going to see 8,517 contests and questions that's represented in the entire database. But for those, only the most recent are going to have the ballots. This is for the most recent. Everything that you see here is backed by an official primary source document. And that's what these documents are. These are statement of votes, these are summary reports, these are detailed reports. But let's take a look at just the ballots, because that's kind of what we're here for. So when we're looking at the November 2025 results, this allows the user to see every election and all those aggregated results as official results alongside a gallery of the ballots and cast vote records that correspond exactly to the user's search. So that means if I'm looking through this and I want to say, I only want to look at city treasurer races, Now this reduces my number of contests in my results. And I also reduced this from over 80,000 to only about 8,000 password records. Because these are for smaller city elections. I can combine this with other searches, and now you'll see this go back up to about 50,000. So it's a coherent experience in that every bit of research I'm doing is showing me not only those results, but the ground truth evidence of how those elected officials got there, vote by vote by vote. That's the power of this tool. Anybody in the comfort of their living room, of their bedroom, can, and even on their phone or on their desktop, can go through this and actually do their own citizen count of the results. That's a profound level of accountability that did not exist before this technology was rolled out. So there's two ways that a user can verify those results. And Clerk Ferlini just showed you, you can go ballot by ballot and compare the cast vote record and make sure that every marking on every ballot was counted by the tabulation machine as expected. So I can click through here, and just go through and do that. Or the Severa team has already helped out because we don't publish a contest on this until our staff verify that all of the cast vote records reconcile with the published official report at the time of the election. So that way, any user in this site knows that every contest they're looking at, the inventory is complete, it's comprehensive, and it's accurate at all times. And they can look and check for that for themselves. It's not like a, trust us, we're the professionals, we're doing this over here, don't worry about it. You know, your questions are annoying, they're frustrating us. No more of that whole dynamic and tone. Instead, we're bringing everyone into the process to create a whole new culture of collaboration, continual improvement.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that before it's certified?
Absolutely not. It's
Okay.
after it's certified. Yeah, before there's actually a few weeks of processing to make sure that your canvas is all done, that all the numbers are good, and then the county will securely transmit the payload of ballot images and cast vote records to the Severa team.
Does it show ballots that have been copied again? Or let's say like a marking, do you have an example of like a marking that would show the cast ballot counting that particular marking that wasn't filled in oval?
I don't think we have we have everything that was the final count. I don't know how much we would show if there was a ballot that was reproduced. I do not think we show an original ballot. We show the reproduced ballot. That is the final result, because that is the official thing that was counted in the end. And the design of this site is to be a pass-through experience of the final official result. So there is a judgment call of how much we want to get into the weeds of all those edge cases, and they are edge cases. There's a very few of those cases.
Well, those are the calls we get.
Yeah, right. And we have other instances in which, say, we have a filter for adjudication. There are adjudications that occur, and then on other deployments, not this one yet, we have the ability for folks to say, show me only those adjudicated ballots, and then you can see like a cross out and this and that, and there might be 2 or more cast vote records where you have the original and then you have the final one based on the judge's decision.
Can you explain that one more time about the verification by your team?
Yep.
When it goes up there, when it's verified, what exactly are you doing to show that it is verified?
That's right. Yep. So when we'll bring in all the images. We do not do any special, computer vision to interpret the votes at all. We just take the images in, and we take what's called the bulk cast vote record file. The bulk cast vote record file is row by row every vote of every ballot without identifying any voter. It's purely anonymized, just like the ballots are. And we run that through our own tabulation. We sum those numbers up. That's what produces these numbers you see here. And then our staff checks those live tabulated CVR numbers against the official statement of votes cast report, which the county produces upon certification, and ensure that those totals match these totals. And what I just did here, I clicked on it for you, so any user can do the same thing that we did. We clicked on that link, and it brings you to the page that contest appears on. You can check the numbers against the numbers in the contest log for yourself. And that's where this verified shields comes from. So without that process, we really wouldn't publish this at all, but it certainly wouldn't have this shield. So that's your assurance that everything here is complete. But hey, trust but verify. Go ahead and invite some friends over and count up all the ballots yourself. So I'm clicking on a contest now. And when you look at each individual contest, it will also show you every ballot that that contest appeared on, no matter the ballot style, no matter what part of the contest district they are. And now the user can dive deeper into each contest. So a couple ways to do that. Obviously, I can switch from raw number to percentages, which is useful. But I can also split up these results by vote type. So you may see that the columns just changed, where these sub-columns appear. Under each candidate, you can see election day voting and vote by mail under these candidates. Now, similarly, I can also filter by a specific vote type. So if I only want to look at vote by mail, I can click filter by absentee. Now I'm only looking at vote by mail. So if I have some theory that something was going on in vote by mail, I can immediately, it's almost like I'm pulling that precinct or pulling that ballot box or pulling that group of ballots live. Now I can cross-section that vote by mail with a specific precinct. So I think precinct 3 vote by mail, something is going on. 289 cast vote records from that cross-section. So what did we do in the days before the ballot verifier? Very difficult to do that, especially for someone on the outside, just a regular, everyday person who wants that assurance, right? That their vote's counted, that everyone's vote's counted. They can do that from the comfort of their home. Now, you may start thinking, well, if we winnow down these ballots to really small counting groups, we have the risk, if there's only a couple of ballots that were cast, you could cross-reference that to the voter file, and you could try to figure out whose ballot that was. We have a security feature to protect against that potential vector, which is very, very important and necessary for this to be successful, and we call that voter privacy masking. So let me give you an example of how that would play out. Let's go back to our search page, and let's look at the city mayor's race for New Baltimore City. Now, in a contest where this security feature has been triggered, it will warn the user, voter privacy masking. This contest contains precincts in which few enough ballots were cast that a voter could possibly be identified. Therefore, to maintain voter anonymity, some selections or ballots have been made hidden from view. This is a very common practice that existed decades before the ballot verifier, in which there might be a rural county where there's only 1 or 2 ballots, 1 or 2 voters turn out, and states across the US have various rules around masking or suppressing, showing those numbers, and we're doing that here. So just to be really clear, the ballot verifier does not increase any risk that didn't already exist in the world of precinct-level election reporting that's existed for decades. But it feels like that because now you can see the ballots. But even having a precinct vote table runs that risk. So when I click on the vote types filter, you're going to see these 3 stars. And that exists because the total ballots cast for early voting in this one precinct, precinct 2, is 20 or fewer. And it just happens to be 20. But if it's 19, or if it's 2, or if it's 1, these will be suppressed. And you see these stars. We will not show those numbers. And you'll start to see ballots here that will be hidden from view. Let's see if any of these show up on this. I'm going to filter down by the precinct, and we'll see some of these that are going to be shielded. There's one. So any of those ballots that were cast in that early column, because they're 20 or under, will be masked. And so if a user attempts to see that ballot, we will block them from being able to see that ballot. And Severa doesn't even store this on our servers. We actually delete these files completely for security purposes. And we also, if a user tries to find this ballot somewhere on the site, but there's another contest on that ballot, it's also masked. It's globally masked across the site. So there's no backdoor, there's no kind of way to sneak.
So that's even if there's more voters for that other particular race, it's masked?
Yep. It's just you have to do that. Even if those would be safe for that contest, there's no way to kind of separate multiple contests on the ballot. So it's just the necessary measure.
So you have to cross out the whole ballot. You couldn't just cross out a portion of that race.
I mean, technically we could, but the software would probably be 4 times more expensive.
Now, how does it render the ballot the results, well, the stats at the top for a small race. Like for us in Chesterfield Precinct 10, we have a split. There's 6 households that fall into a different congressional category. We'll say house seat. That's in another jurisdiction as well. Does it show the aggregate total for that contest with all communities?
That's going to completely depend on how y'all have set it up in your ballot definition and your election definition file before you start the election, and then that's going to dictate how it comes through to us in the cast vote records. I can't give you one single answer on that because folks might, if the split itself is kind of kept as a distinct unit on the cast vote record level, then we will show that as a split. If it's not, then we'll show it as combined. If that's helpful. Yep, so another point to note here is just like before, every contest that you see, we're not only linking it to those kind of pairwise, one-by-one cast vote records and ballots, but we're also linking that to multiple sources. One might be the summary report, one might be the precinct level report. So again, it's a fancy new website. Where do these numbers come from? We want to make sure that everyone understands exactly the ground truth that these are grounded in. So that's there's a lot more features I could show, like data downloads and things like that, but I'll leave it there for now.
One of the underlying reasons that I think the county's been exploring a robust test deck is this theory of vote switching. Is there a way to narrow the results to a race where a candidate did not get a vote, so that we can verify that each ballot image that appears shows no votes for that candidate, as opposed to narrowing it to only where they got a vote? Can we do the opposite?
Well, we can certainly. I mean,
It's a good question.
It's a great question. It can be done because this is all now fully structured in a database in the back end. And so it might be a matter of just adding a little filter widget to do that specific query on the whole set. There's a number of advanced filters that we can do. So if you look at these and think ahead, what can we add to this? It sounds like something pretty feasible. So for instance, I can search really the entire database by anyone who's run. So if you're trying to target a specific candidate and just look at what contest they're in, you can certainly do that. If I just click, county commissioner candidate here, we have everything that person's run in, and then you could certainly review these. But we could add an additional filter to say show races where they've received 0 votes, something like that. Yeah. So we have even looking at ballot questions, not to go too far afield, but this is just such a useful feature and should cut down on a lot of records requests for folks. You can basically turn off the candidate contests and search all your ballot questions through full text search. So you can search 20, 30, 40 years. We have implementations that go back to the 1790s in Virginia, Vermont, and Connecticut. And we're going to be adding more data here as well, where you can just search. I can just start typing.
How far back have we gone so far? Is it the 70s?
2000 and then we have more coming.
2000?
That's what's on the site, but we have another phase coming. Yeah.
So you can see the ballots.
Well, no, so this is
Can't.
where you're getting 2 features in one, and the ballots, as you had mentioned, they're only available starting in 2021?
2025.
No, on the site they're up 2025, but you guys turned it
We
on,
we
or
started-
DSNS started
How
we
far
providing it.
back are we going to be able to go?
With the ballots themselves, we're only going to go back, from a cost standpoint, we're going to go back to November 2024.
That's right.
Can't you just do 2020 just to put it?
No,
Yeah.
because the tabulators were not turned on.
Yeah.
In 2020.
That's what we see around the country. Some, when they get this, they want to immediately do 2020, but some just don't have it because they never scanned it. Yeah. And the state of that tech, and because there wasn't really a public component to the scanning, it's just such a mixed bag. Who did it?
Well, let me do this. I'm going to cut in real quick. We've got this Facebook live stream, and I want you guys to take as much time as you can with Adam while he's here, ask questions, and we'll let the people on the outside relax and listen to all the boring clerk questions, I guess. But thanks. Not boring at all.